101.5 FM proudly presents the Community Kitchen with Annette Long.
Well, you got to keep it simple, and that's that.
And welcome to Community Kitchen. Beautiful weather out there. Isn't spring just the most amazing time? We've got some excellent guests on this morning. It's going to be a packed show. At 10 o'clock actually, we're going to be talking to Nikki, who's one of the food trainers for the Ministry of Food Truck. We've heard Jamie Oliver's Ministry of Foods coming to the Moreton Bay region, which is just fantastic. So we're going to be learning what's going to be happening with that. A little bit later on, we're going to be talking to Holly Viner, and she is the from the Biological Farmers of Australia, and we're going to be following up on, I'm sure you've all heard the report in the news and in the paper about the fact that a report from Stanford University was saying that there's no nutritional difference in organic or basic grown food. We're going to talk to Holly about that because I'm sure she's going to enlighten us. And we've been talking about spring, we've been talking about our garden, and I mentioned last week that we're going to be following up with a garden, someone who can help us out with gardening. So I'm going to be talking to Peter from the Plant Shack at Deception Bay, and of course if you've been there, it's just an absolutely beautiful nursery, and he's going to be giving us some tips on how to plant out your vegetable garden and get the most of your seedlings right now. But we'll go to a song and we'll come back with Nikki, who's, as I said, the food trainer for the ministry. And welcome back to Community Kitchen. I've got my first guest online, Nikki, who's a trainer for Jamie Oliver's Ministry of Food. Good morning, Nikki. How are you?
Morning, Annette. I'm really well, thank you. How are you?
I'm well. Everybody's very excited about your food truck coming to the Moreton Bay region. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of incredible knowledge passed on to our residents who apply. So it's quite an exciting event.
It is, yeah. We're excited as well to be coming to Moray Field, and it'll give a chance for North Brisbane residents to enrol in the course as well.
Now, you've been busy over in Ipswich doing your training there, but this is a little bit different because this is a mobile training unit, and you intend to take this all around the nation, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So our mobile kitchen is dedicated to Queensland, so obviously we have the centre in Ipswich, so the mobile centre gives other residents in Queensland a chance to come and do the course.
I actually Googled the truck yesterday to have a look at it because in your mind you're trying to work out how on earth you're going to be fitting all these people, but it's just an incredible setup, isn't it?
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. The boys that built that are, pretty incredible. It's a great place to work and to teach cooking.
So, Nikki, what can our people expect? What do they do if they want to be involved with this food event?
So it's actually, enrolments are handled by the local council. So if people want to find out more, they can just jump on the Moreton Bay Regional Council website. So that's moretonbay.qld.gov.au, and there's some links there that they can find out more about it. They can also enrol online or through phone. Now, the online bookings for round one start on the 19th of September. And then we've got round two starting on the 17th of October. So we're offering two 5-week courses. And in that 5 weeks, people will go through and learn a series of different recipes, is that right? They will, yeah. So over the course of the 5 weeks, they come once a week for a 90-minute class, and it covers hints and shortcuts to cooking simple, nutritious meals, with the focus on fresh ingredients. So we give them lots of tips. We give them some basic recipes to build on once they've got the confidence to experiment in their kitchens. I think that's an interesting thing, isn't it? We've been seeing, over the last probably the last 5 years, such an increase in different food training. It seems that a lot of people have lost the fundamental art of cooking. Yeah, and that's part of the whole Ministry of Food program, is that getting people back into the kitchen. There's a lot of people that just don't know any basic cooking skills, that can't cook at all, and would really like to learn how to. So that's what we're offering.
I was fortunate enough to do a class at Ipswich because I was very excited when I heard that Jamie Oliver was coming across to Australia, and I love cooking. It's one of the things I enjoy. But it was interesting to see the different blends of people in that class. It was just incredible.
Yeah, it's really diverse. We get a big range of age groups, you know, from 12-year-old kids to our oldest participant that we are aware of is 94.
Wow.
So, it's fantastic. And, you know, different skill levels as well. So a lot of people have pretty much never cooked in their lives. Some have some basic skills, but they just want to know how to do a few more things, get some inspiration.
I think inspiration is one of those things, and I think one thing we have discussed on our show here is that sometimes when you're looking at there's so many fantastic television shows that relate to food, but some of them are so incredibly complicated that it can be quite intimidating for people.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's the problem with a lot of the cooking shows nowadays is that it's, you know, quite fancy, everyone's trying to be a bit chefy. So it is intimidating to people that have never really cooked before. So, we aim to, the environment that we have here on the mobile kitchen is very much welcoming, and it's not intimidating at all, the layout and just the way that we run the classes. It's all about supporting people that, you know, don't necessarily have the skills and just gently teaching them how to build confidence in the kitchen, which is really important.
Jamie Oliver's so passionate about food, isn't he?
Yeah, yes, definitely. Yeah, and eating good food.
I think it's, one thing that you keep thinking about, and I remember talking to someone we were saying about, the looking after our food for the future, and this particular guest I had, he said, even if you're just planting one little thing at home, it just starts the whole food thought happening within your own little environment. Even if you put a lettuce in or one tomato plant or something like that, it can make a difference and can be quite inspirational.
Oh, absolutely, and it's all about little, small changes. This course that we offer is only for 5 weeks, but it's amazing the changes that you see in the participants as the weeks go by.
That's great, isn't it?
Pretty amazing, yeah.
So how many people can you accommodate for in each course?
So for the entire 2 courses that we will be running in Moreton Bay, we'll be teaching up to 240 of the local residents. So, up to 240 will complete the course. We'll also have some volunteers, some lovely local volunteers, up to 30 that will help out during the classes.
And Nikki, the cost, what does it cost?
Well, it is up to our local council as to how much they will charge.
Oh, okay.
But I believe that Moreton Bay is just charging $5 for the entire course, so that's pretty amazing.
Well, that is extremely amazing.
Yeah.
But I guess when you're looking around, and I mean, we cover this on the show all the time, when you're seeing people who are being diagnosed with diabetes, who have heart problems, who have health problems, it's one of those initiatives. It's nice to see a council taking that initiative to try and help their residents get over those problems.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and obviously because this is such an accessible course to people, especially those that, may have some health problems, are trying to, find ways to eat more healthily and cook for themselves. So this is a really great way for local councils to do that.
So just digressing one moment, how long is the actual course per day? How long are you spending in the kitchen there?
So it's of the courses that we offer.
Yes, if a person's going to actually enrol, how long would I go for if I went?
So it's just, they need to just commit to one session a week, a 90-minute session.
90-minute, yes, sorry.
Once a week for 5 weeks, yep. So we've got times throughout the day. So there's different sessions. There's, 3 to 4 classes running each day. And we've got morning classes, lunchtime ones, after school, and a nighttime class as well. So it's flexible enough for people that work full time or that have kids that need to get picked up after school. So there's a variety of times there, and people can just jump on the website when the bookings become open, and they can enrol just to see what times are available, and they can just choose which time they can commit to once a week for 5 weeks.
And Nikki, just on a personal level, now you're one of the trainers. How long have you been doing this for?
We've been doing it since January, so it's only been running this year, but it's been pretty amazing. We're really excited about it, and overwhelmed by the response we've had from the areas we've been to. Moreton Bay will be our 4th location. Our previous locations, it's just, it's really amazing seeing the change in people coming through, and just the support, and, people thanking us, saying how much, we've made a difference to their lives, which, sounds a little bit corny, but it's...
No, I think it's great.
Pretty, yeah. So we're so happy that it's been such a success, so...
I think it's interesting. I can remember watching a show where Jamie Oliver went into one of the areas in the UK and took these people who hadn't ever cooked, and I mean that when you said that before about people who've never cooked, you sort of get a little bit of a shock with that, because when you consider that you've got to make sure that you've got breakfast happening at lunch and you've got dinner, and I guess I'm in the family situation where I do that, and you're always planning ahead, and you can't imagine what it would be like not cooking, and you wonder how on earth people survive. But it was interesting when he took this particular class, and a lot of people, he followed them up to see how they were going. And it was quite interesting. Some people didn't venture any further, and yet other people just got so creative and got very interested and were really responsible for, their family, and started to actually teach friends and shared all the things that they had learned. So that would be quite an interesting view if you could have that happening, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's part of our philosophy as well, the Jamie's pass it on philosophy, which is, once you've got the confidence and those basic skills to cook for your friends and family, and teach them the recipes as well, and then they can pass it on, and that's the whole idea behind it, is to just keep that kind of inspiration and that the learning process happening. As you were saying about people, being amazed that there are people that can't cook. It's actually quite common, which is a little bit scary, and they either rely on convenience foods, prepackaged foods, or takeaways. Obviously we're trying to educate people to get in the kitchen, cook your own meals from scratch, from fresh, healthy ingredients, rather than relying on those prepackaged or takeaway meals that you just don't know what's in them.
I think not only just that, the cost. I just can't imagine how people could afford to live like that.
And there's, again, it's about education, because we deal with, we give them budgeting tips as well, shopping tips and things like that. So we explain to them how, if you spend X amount of money on a takeaway meal, if you just go and buy some fresh ingredients with that you have, several meals, and meals that you can prepare in bulk and pop in your freezer, and then you've got, fresh meals all the time, or meals that you've prepared yourself that you know exactly what's going into them.
Everyone loves to have a bit of a lazy day, and I think that freezer idea when you're doing bulk is just such a good idea. So, we encourage people to do that as well, because when they do the classes here, they get to take home some of what they've cooked. So we give them options on how to use them, whether they're going to feed their family that night or pop it in the freezer, portion it, and when you just feel like having a lazy day, you can grab it out and reheat it. That's wonderful. Now, we hope that we'll come down and visit you when you're visiting, bringing your truck up to the Moreton Bay region.
Yeah.
So I hope I meet you there, and I'm sure that we'll be able to follow up, and for our listeners, we something to look forward to.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Excellent. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us this morning.
No worries. Thanks very much, Annette.
Bye, Nikki.
See you later.
And we will follow that up, and we intend to go down to the truck, and we'll be able to maybe have a live interview with either one of the trainers or maybe someone who's gone to learn how to cook and get back in the kitchen. I think it's interesting. We're going to our sponsors, and we'll be back very shortly. And welcome back to Community Kitchen. I have my next guest online, Holly Viner, who's the General Manager of the Biological Farmers of Australia. Good morning, Holly. How are you?
Good morning, Annette. Very well, thank you.
That's excellent. Holly, I'm so pleased you could join me. After reading the newspaper this week and listening on the television, there was a report done and you know, talking and debating about the nutritional value of conventional and organic food.
Yes.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yes, it is, although it's to be expected, honestly. There are studies which come out from time to time, and, you know, the media absolutely loves to jump on the debate as to whether organic is better for you or not. And yeah, look, from our point of view, you know, nutrition is a part of the picture, but it's just a small part of the picture, and it often, unfortunately, is the one thing that people jump on, and it's such a difficult thing to really to gather any consistent evidence about, because nutrition is such a difficult one to judge. You know, if you're looking at polyphenols and so forth, and look, I'm not a nutritionist, so I won't go into great detail, but there are different levels of nutrition that you can look at as well, and quite often these studies don't see the whole picture.
I think the interesting thing for me is that one thing I've always you know, thought and assumed about organic food, not so much the nutritional value, it was the lack of spraying. It was the lack of using different sprays that you didn't want to have in your food.
That's absolutely right, and that's why most people will buy
I'll ask you to speak up just a little bit, sorry.
Yes, I'll try to speak up.
That's it, yes.
That's exactly why most people will buy organic. It's the things that it doesn't have. It's doesn't have the synthetic pesticides and fertilizers and herbicides and so forth. It doesn't have the additives added into, you know, processed and packaged foods. It doesn't have the hormones and antibiotics, and it doesn't have the GMOs. And then, so there are a lot of reasons to buy organic for health, not just nutrition. But then, of course, there are the other benefits that people like to buy organic for. There's the environment benefit, and there's the animal treatment or animal welfare benefit as well.
There's always, as you say, I mean, it's I guess it's part of the press, it's part of media, it's part of all of our jobs to question and ask those you know, little things that come up about our life and what people are saying is happening. But I think the amazing thing for me is that there's been so much talk about, you know, going organic, and then when you see different things, like one of the things I always get really frightened about is the genetically modified foods, and because of our future. And you think that this is going to be one scary thing down the end of the track when all of a sudden we are not able to go and get those few seeds out of the shed and plant out our pumpkins because it's not going to work.
No, that's right, and that's, yes, the objective is, I guess, to replace the common seed with a super duper one, which you need to have a license to use and need to pay for. So, yeah, it is a little sad from that respect, and there are a lot of, you know, seeds which have been used generation upon generation in countries and improved on from crop after crop, and, you know, those seeds kept and now being replaced by these genetically modified seeds, which is, you know, at the end of the day, it's not often sustainable for the farmer. He has to then give away all that, you know, that careful preservation and be paying year upon year for brand new seed.
I think that's always the tricky one, isn't it? And I think the one thing, I mean, one of the factors, I was just talking to a lady and they're bringing the Ministry of Food truck, the Jamie Oliver, into the Moreton Bay region.
Yes.
And it's interesting, she was saying that there's so many people who don't cook, and yet we have so many health problems and things like this. So when you look at all those factors, you think, well, really, we have to start to preserve so many different agricultural points. Otherwise, we're not going to have any food to cook down the end of the track.
Yes, well, that's right. And look, Jamie Oliver's just doing such a wonderful job in that way. And I think a lot of organic consumers, you know, they obviously pay a little more for their food, and that's just what they pay for their food, and they accept that. But sometimes they may compromise and not go out quite so often, and they cook at home, which again is better for the family to know what's in your food and to have control over that and to eat healthily. So you know, there's a big focus, I think, on cooking and knowing what's in your food, knowing the source of food, and it's not just organic consumers, but all consumers. It's nice to see the popularity of MasterChef and other programs like that as well, which all raises awareness and brings people back to understanding and valuing cooking of food at home.
So I'm pleased to see that the study hasn't actually affected the positiveness of organic gardening.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's right. It's great to see as well. In Australia, we're great gardeners, aren't we? And most people just assume that if they're gardening at home, that it's organic, but that's not always the case. So always it's a good thing to just remind people as well that they need to use, if they're going to use sprays and whatnot, to look for organic sprays. And there are registrations of or logos that you can look for on products, like there's the Biological Farmers of Australia, which is obviously our group, or there's also NASA, which is another organic certifier which registers product approved for use in gardening and farming.
And I think that makes a difference, because if it's something that you can actually go along with, it going to your local green Bunnings or whatever shops out there that have so much available that people can actually make that choice.
That's right. It's wonderful to have alternatives there now which weren't there previously, registered compost and fertilisers and even bug sprays. There are friendly alternatives. If you really can't, with the health of your soil, if you're growing organically, quite often you'll be able to. The plants will have a natural resistance or build that up over time, but sometimes it is good to be able to rely on the tools that are there, and there are friendly tools to help with pest management and disease management as well.
Well, Holly, thank you for joining us. I sort of felt that our listeners needed to be able to have a follow-up on these, I guess, probably quite negative reports that we've been reading in the paper. So thank you for taking the time to join us this morning.
That's a pleasure, Annette. Thank you.
Okay, bye now.
Bye.
And we've been talking to Holly Viner, who's the General Manager of the BFA, and as she said, a lot of the times you can have such a negative response to something that is such a positive ideal that we have. We're going to go to our sponsors, and then we're going to be talking to Peter from the Plant Shack about gardening, which of course spring is here, so why wouldn't we? And I think he's recommended that you have a pen and paper handy, because he's going to go through some tips which I think we could all deal with when we're doing our gardens, because sometimes it's so disappointing, isn't it, when you've spent the time, you've been digging and you've been planting out, just to see that your plants aren't producing. And I think that's one of the things that we need to be able to follow up. So Peter from the Plant Shack is going to assist us through that. We'll be back shortly. And welcome back to Community Kitchen. I have my next guest online, Peter from the Plant Shack at Deception Bay. Good morning, Peter. How are you?
Very well, thanks, Annette. Thanks for having me on the program.
It's excellent. I was talking to our listeners in the last couple of weeks, saying, the weather's getting better and, it's spring, and you get that drive to get into the garden, don't you?
Yeah, it's a natural thing that I think that happens to us biologically. We start to wake up, the days get longer, the light intensity is brighter, the flowers come out, the bees start working, so it only makes sense that us humans get involved too.
I don't know what happens with me, but a couple of weeks ago I started to do that sort of opening windows and airing and cleaning, and then I thought, spring clean. That's what happens.
That's right.
It's beautiful. Now, Peter, the reason I wanted to talk is a lot of times people, and myself, you get about, you dig up your garden, you got everything planted, and you're sort of imagining that you're going to have an abundance of produce. It doesn't work, and it is the most disappointing, and you're really reluctant to have another go.
We battle with that in the garden centre business. We battle with that all the time, and we really don't want people to lose hope. So I suppose proper preparation is one thing, and then follow-up maintenance. So the motivation is good, but we need to commit to that motivation. So that's probably those two things need to really be addressed.
So one thing is picking your seedlings too. If you're one of those fantastic people that you can get your own seedlings going, and it means some things you can, which are quite easy to get going, and it's not a drama. But when you want to actually provide food for your family, you sort of, I don't know, I tend to go to buy some seedlings, and you get home and they look a little bit bedraggled, and even knowing when to plant them out. So let's start from the very process of how to get your plants in the garden and make them survive.
Okay, that's a good question and a big question. First of all, I suppose timing is important. There's two main times of the year. You have this the autumn period. The late autumn is an excellent time to plant a lot of your winter veggies, which really include the cauliflowers and broccolis and cabbages and those sorts of things. Then you've got your spring period, where things like the tomatoes, capsicums and beetroot and even silver beets still, those sorts of things are better to plant now. So there's a couple of ways you can do that. What the nurseries have on the shelf generally is what's correct to plant. So we find that we naturally stop ordering, or the stock doesn't become available on the shelf. So that's one indicator. And I definitely recommend for the novice gardener to buy seedlings over seed raising. That's definitely a way to go. But the next step is really preparing the area. You've got to have a sunny spot. So when you're really growing them in low light shade, you're going to get a compromised plant, and you're up for disappointment. So some plants just don't bother if it's shady. Then you've really got to look at your preparation, and a lot of it boils down to food and plant foods. I mean, not people foods, but plant foods. And this is where the farmers really have it over us mortals in the domestic situations. We've really got to look at the plant feeding. So when you get your seedling should look nice and fresh. You need to keep it in at least, say, half a day or bright shade until you plant it. Ideally, you'd plant it straight away. So you'd need to prepare your soil. Your soil needs to be at a depth of, say, 6 to 10 inches. So you fork it over. You put about a 2 or 3 inch layer of compost or manure over that, and then also some organic fertilizer. You want to say, we like to recommend one called Organic Extra, and you use that at a good few hundred grams per square metre, and you fork all that through, and then you level the soil out. Then at that stage you can cover it over with some mulch, and this is all before you plant. So if you cover it before with the mulch before you plant, the mulching becomes very easy, and you just shift the mulch away, build a small mound with your hands, a 2-finger hole, separate the seedlings and plant the seedlings, and then water it in with some liquid feed.
Let's just go back. When we're talking about mulch, what do you recommend for using mulch? For
veggie patches, the best mulches are lucerne or sugarcane mulch. Okay. And there's a reason for that. They're easy, they're convenient, it can be bought in bags, and as they break down fairly quickly. So normally over the cycle of a crop, that sugarcane mulch or lucerne mulch can either be worked in or dug or shifted off to the side before the next replant.
Mm-hmm.
And lucerne is particularly good for bought soils or soil that hasn't had any work done to it. Lucerne will provide some nitrogen and act almost like a green manure.
So you just get some lucerne hay?
Lucerne hay, yes, and you can buy that in bags or from the produce stores. Now, the negative with lucerne is that you can get a few lucerne plants
Happens
popping up.
to me.
Does it?
Yes.
Yes, well, it's just one of those little chores, but the benefit of the lucerne for the soil, especially if it's poor soil, that's where the lucerne really comes in. It can act like a manure.
Okay.
And then another thing that's really important is to group your plantings. So things like carrots, beetroot, those stem crops don't really like too much nitrogen, and nitrogen will come from excess fertilizer and excess compost and manure. So don't get excited and really manure and compost where your carrots are going to go. That's where you need to do a half sieve of fertilizer and nearly no compost in those areas.
Okay.
But the heavy feeding things, now they're things like chilies, tomatoes, capsicums, they need extra manure, extra fertilizer. And then the things that are leafy like lettuce, broccoli, silver beet, they like extra manure or compost.
On top of that, like even more than the tomatoes and everything?
That's right, yeah. They like a very high nitrogen brew, and that will come from that layer of compost. So what I said before, a 2 or 3 inch layer is a basic amount. So for where you're planting your silver beet or your broccoli, you could put a 4 or 5 inch layer and fork that through. So you just put those things on top of the ground, then fork it through, then plant the plant, and after the plant's planted, a little ring of organic fertilizer as well to make sure that poor little seedling doesn't miss out in case you haven't mixed it up very well.
So when if I'm, say today for example, if I've got everything all organised and then I'm fortunate enough to have a big pile of seedlings, I go home, do I plant in the morning or in the afternoon? Or does it matter?
It doesn't really matter. Both those parts of the days are good. You'd probably avoid the middle of the day if you can help it. So it's just that with gardening you tend to avoid extremes. Like if it feels particularly dry and windy and very, very hot, then you might dodge that day or dodge that morning. But either way, they're still better off in the ground than not. If you have to plant in the middle of the day, then just a small branch or a little bit of shade just to ease the pressure off that poor little plant just for a day or two. But really, the plants should respond fairly quickly to whatever you have done. So if they don't bounce out of the ground within 2 weeks, that means your feeding is not enough, or you need to compensate with some liquid food. That liquid foods are very fast acting, but they don't last long, but they're excellent as supplementary fertilizers. So that's when you can come along and water that into around the plant once a week, say for 3 weeks, and you really should see some growth until it the roots move in and pick up that organic nutrient.
So you could actually use a liquid in your little watering can and just go along and individually do the plants.
That's right. Now the type of thing I would recommend would be there's a local product, Flourish, made by the Searles family. 4 teaspoons of all-round Flourish in a watering can, plus a big slurp of seaweed solution. That combination in some warm water poured over the plants once a week should really get them to bounce out of the ground, regardless of the soil type. So you can override most poor soils like that. Now, if that fails to work, then you need to come and see us at the nursery, and we'll have a natter and get to the bottom of why you're not getting massive growth.
Now, isn't it important, like a lot of different books, they talk about companion planting, and you don't put tomatoes in a plot that you had last year. Is this important?
There is some truth to companion planting, more so in the sense that there's a handful of plants that can let out chemicals that can slow other plants down. Overall, don't worry about it too much.
Okay.
Don't get fixated on it. Focus more on nutrition and correct grouping. And also when you're grouping the plants, as I was saying before, you've got to think that the bigger plant is going to shade the smaller plant. So the bigger plant needs to go on the southern side of the bed. So if you've got a tomato, then you're growing lettuce, the lettuce needs to be where the sunny side is. So it's more. I think it's more important to think of that in terms of companion planting than more so about keeping bugs away. The only true thing that I know about keeping bugs away with plants is marigolds grown in the garden. When they have finished, you need to work them into the soil and they can repel nematodes. But as far as keeping bugs away, haven't seen a great lot of results in my own trials.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I've had the old marigolds going, and one thing I find is that I put flowers in my veggie garden because I love the bees coming.
Wonderful advice. That's really good advice. And letting, sometimes if your broccoli goes to flower, then let them be and feed some nature. And look, there's other pollinating insects too, bees and other insects, so it's not a bad thing. And it looks great, doesn't it?
Oh, I love it, because you sort of go out there and you pick a bit of this and you pick a bit of that and think, I might pick some flowers for the kitchen or something like that.
If you've got some pansies, they could be included in your salad.
Well, that's exactly right. Now, potatoes, one of my family members, she can just grow them so easily, and yet I haven't had really good results.
Okay, well, is she in a different area to you?
I'm Kilcoy, she's Caboolture.
Okay, there could be a little bit of climate effect there with you have those colder mornings being that much more inland, so that may be one thing. With tomatoes, potatoes, they need really good drainage, a reasonable level of compost, and then you mound them up. So you keep pulling the compost or the mulch or the soil up around the stem, and each time you mound them, put a tight handful of an organic fertiliser at the same time. And now that should trigger a greater level of roots, which then turn into the potatoes to come out from the stems. So that's what I'd try if I was you, Annette.
It's one thing you were saying before, which I think sometimes you forget. You see all these farmers, and especially around Toogoolawah, there's so many small little farmers there. They've got these fantastic, like, corn and potatoes and sunflowers, but they do use fertilisers, on a big level. And if you go to Gatton, and it is a good point, isn't it? You think your veggie garden, you think, put a bit of mulch on there and a bit of water and stuff like that. But it is an important thing to do.
Absolutely, and that's why we're really touching on it today, because you're trying to grow the plant at its optimum. And you're trying to get the best results you can from it. And we're so spoilt by what's in the shops. When you go to the shops, the corn's beautiful and lush and sweet. The oranges are perfect in colour and sweet and juicy. So we get spoilt by that. So they're plants that are really, nothing is left to chance in terms of feeding them. So that's why good preparation, then some follow-up feeding. At about the 4 to 6 mark, you need to revise how your plants are growing. You might find one of your tomatoes is smaller than the other. So at that point, you need to he might need liquid feeding every 4 days, and then another handful of some granular food around the base of it until it improves. So a little bit often if you're unsure with your feeding, and you'll be amazed, and you feel so proud when your plants are lush and green, the fruit's tasty, and you'll be surprised at how nature responds. We've got plants here that if they're not fertilised and healthy, the bees don't work at them. So that's what I mean about the plant growing to its optimum. If it's not growing to its optimum, it's not producing the pollen, it's not producing its flowers, it's not going to hold on to its fruit, and the flavour's not going to be there. So nutrition in plants and in people is so important.
Well, I mean, when you say it like that, it is so logical, isn't it?
And you can tell your plants when they're hungry too. The lower leaves will tend to be yellow, and the angle of the leaves will also hang down. You look at a pawpaw tree. When a pawpaw tree in the peak of summer has got its leaves hanging down like it's a dog with his ears down, it tends to be, that's an indicator that it's out of food. So you get all these warning signs. Chilies are a great example. Chilies hang their leaves downwards, and then when they're not reaching their full nutrition, but when they get their food, their leaves angle upwards. Tomatoes drop all the yellow leaves down low. You think it's water, so you continue to water, but you get no results. And then it's actually trying to tell you there's not enough nutrient to sustain the nutrient that is available goes into the tomatoes at the expense of the leaves. So you get these signs. It's about being able to read that plant.
That's amazing. Now, just talking about watering, if we're into this season and then we're sort of course it's going to get hotter, when is the best time? Is it once a day, twice a day?
Another good question, Annette. Now, the answer to that question is when the plant needs it. So that's where you have to be able to discern. Use your logic, like is the day dry, is the soil dry, does the plant look dry, how is it reacting? You get a number of clues, and most of us tend to just look at the plant and say, right, I'm not sure I'm going to water you. But there's always a couple clues that you can go by. So looking at the plant is one way. Doing your assessment of the day's weather. If your lips are dry, you're hot but you're not sweating, that's all indicators of low humidity, and your plants are likely to need a drink in that sort of weather. So time of day, morning's generally the best time. When to do it is when the plant needs it. Now, you could also look at the soil. If the soil looks shiny and wet, you don't water. If the water looks dusty dry, you need to slap yourself and get out there and water it.
But, the whole thing is, saying before, there's nothing nicer than walking out there and seeing these, especially something like silver beet. It's just such a beautiful vegetable when it's so healthy and abundant. And it's such a nice feeling, isn't it?
Exactly, and the converse is true. So when your plants are happy, you can feel happy. And it can happen on a subconscious level that when you see your plant stressing and it doesn't feel right, you want to do something about it too. So I agree. Happy plants means a happy person.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now tell me this, you do workshops.
We do. We've found that education and back to what you were saying before, keeping people's confidence up and not losing heart just because you've had a failure. So we've found workshops can help with that. We do most of our veggie talks in the middle of the year. Mm-hmm. We do citrus, talking on fruit trees, and the next workshop, which is in about 4 weeks' time, which I don't have the date yet, but you can check our website in the next week or two on plantshack.com.au, is on colour gardening. Mm. So with flowers being very much in vogue in spring, we're talking about how to grow really ridiculously colourful flowers in containers and in the ground.
So you can go down to your place and see a little mini carnival of flowers, eh?
Yes, we do have a spring, bit of a spring display happening now, and we would love to see some of your listeners.
That's wonderful. Peter, thank you.
My pleasure.
I'm sure we're going to talk on air again because I enjoyed it, so I'm sure that we've got a lot of other listeners out there doing exactly the same.
Thank you. Well, look, it's a big subject, the horticultural world. I'm at the stage where I realise how little I know. So, it's a great subject, and I love selling the product. So thanks for having me on your show, Annette. We'll talk again.
Thank you very much. And of course, we've been talking to Peter from the Plant Shack at Deception Bay. And as I said earlier, and as I've said a couple of weeks prior, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's just so beautiful having a veggie garden, but it's so disappointing if you just haven't got that right balance going, and you drive past someone's house and you can see this fantastic veggie patch out the back, and you think, oh my goodness, I'd just really love that. So there's some good pointers. I don't know about you, but I've written some notes down here, so let's talk about it in a month and just see how our gardens are going. We've had a great morning this morning. Remember, the Jamie Oliver Ministry of Food truck is coming to the Moreton Bay, and as Nikki, one of the food trainers, said, you can go on to the Moreton Bay Regional Council's website and enrol there. It's not expensive. It's totally subsidised by our council, which is a wonderful thing because if it's going to stop people from getting diabetes, everything else that we seem to have happening in our world, from not eating, not just so much nutritional, but just getting into the kitchen. And we've talked to Peter. Get out in the garden, get a few things growing, and the joy of it really is just absolutely beautiful. talking to Holly Viner, of course, and she's the general manager of the BFA. Interested to follow that up, because when you hear sort of such a blanket rule on the in the paper or on the news saying that there's absolutely no nutritional value at all in organics, interesting. But the point made was the fact that there is no sprays, it's hormone steroid free. There's a whole series of different things that come with the organic group, so that's worthwhile looking at. And of course, talking to Peter from the Plant Shack at Deception Bay, I look forward to this time of year. There's so many beautiful things growing, and it just makes you feel good to get out in that garden. Thanks for joining me, and we'll be with you next week, and I'm sure there's other things that we'll be sharing with you, as I mentioned, regularly. And I do ask you if you would like to share. Who knows, maybe you've got some fantastic gardening hints that have worked for you. Give us a ring here on 54951015. We would love to have one of the listeners or someone from our region that has some great cooking ideas, or you do something special at home. There's so many different nationalities in our region. I'm sure there's someone out there who's got something that they'd like to share. So give us a ring. They will put you on to me. I'd love to have you on my show. Thanks very much, and we'll join you next week.